Well, welcome everyone. We're going to let attendees flow into the Zoom room for a minute before we get started. If you want to put in the chat where you were zooming in from today, please say hello and introduce yourselves, and we'll get started in just a few moments. Welcome, Noelle. Hi, Clara. Thanks for being here. Hi, Kamora. Welcome. Hi, Mia. Welcome from Maine. Hi, Mateo. We've emailed back and forth a few times. Good to have you here. Collins, all the way from Tanzania. Great. Perfect. We have a few more folks rolling in, but while they get settled, do some introductions and thank you all for joining our Creative Thought Works program here this evening. My name is Tiffany DePasquale, and I'm an Associate Director of Admissions here at Skidmore. And I'm excited to welcome you to our Creative Thought Works series. This series really aims at amplifying Skidmore outcomes and current experiences through monthly themed panels that reach a large audience of prospective students across the country and around the world, as we are seeing as folks are putting in where they're coming from today. So we're really happy to have you here. So today, our session is titled Creative Thought Works, the summer I did my Skidmore internship. Very apt for today on a Wednesday. I'll ask our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves before we begin our moderated discussion. And it'll be recorded and available on our admissions website. Afterwards, we will move into a Q&A session where panelists can answer questions submitted through the chat feature. So we're really going to have kind of, besides that breakout room section right there, it's just going to be Q&A. But we will hear from all of you after we ask our questions. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all. So we are going to have our panelists introduce themselves. For that, please share your name, your class year, majors, minors, or professional title. And we will go alphabetically by first name, starting with Alex. Alex, welcome.
I'm Alex. I graduated back out in 2016. So my 10-year reunion is coming up, which is super exciting. I'm based here in Los Angeles, California, and I majored in both dance, and business management, which I'm sure you will all see that duos of art and other things are very common here at Skidmore. And I am the group account director at a creative agency based out of New York and LA called General Idea.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for being here.
Of course.
Next, I'll have Charlotte introduce herself.
Hey everyone, my name is Charlotte. I'm a current senior, so I'll be graduating in 2026. I am an English major, and I double minor in classics, so Greek, Latin, Roman studies, and theater.
Perfect. Thank you, Charlotte. And next, I will have Lane.
Hi guys, my name is Lane. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a senior here and I'm a double major in business and English. I do literary studies for English. That's a little bit about me.
Perfect. Thank you, Lane. And next, but not least, Milo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Milo Flammenbaum. I'm also a senior. I am from Westchester, New York, and I'm a physics major and business and management minor.
Perfect. Well, thank you all for those introductions. So we'll start off with our first question. We've asked you all here this evening because you've either participated in a summer internship or you have worked with a Skidmore student on a summer internship. You've all done some pretty amazing things over the past few years and past few summers. For students, would you mind giving us a brief overview of the internship or internships that you've worked on? Starting out, we can go alphabetically. Charlotte, if you don't mind starting, and then we'll go through.
Yeah, of course. So in the summer of 2024, I got to work at Alex's company, General Idea, as an account management intern in doing luxury marketing and advertising, working in office in New York City, getting to experience the ins and outs of luxury advertising. This past summer, I had an internship writing for a local magazine. So I wrote about restaurants, things to do, activities and events that were happening all around my local area.
Perfect. And then thank you, Lane.
Done a couple different kinds of things. So earlier in my college career, I interned for a couple different political campaigns. I also interned for Eleanor's Legacy, which is an organization that gets women into office in New York State. After that, last year, my junior year, I interned for Old Stone's Trade, which is a luxury fashion company based in New York City and makes hand designer like clothing. And then this past summer, I interned at our Tang Teaching Museum doing their digital media. And I'm also an admissions intern this semester. So I've done a couple different kinds of things, but yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Lane. And then Milo.
The first internship I had was summer of 2024, where I worked locally interning at the National Racing Museum and Hall of Fame up here in Saratoga, while also working in admissions. And then previously last spring semester, I was abroad in Milan, Italy, and working with my abroad program and the Skidmore off-campus program. I was able to get an internship there in a marketing technology firm. And while I was abroad, I found out about an internship that I did this past summer at Vineyard Vines in their headquarters in Stanford. I see someone's from Stanford, in their e-commerce department.
Perfect. Thank you, students. Now for Alex, do you mind walking us through what the process looks like in terms of working with Charlotte on her internship a few summers ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So Charlotte and I were connected through a job shadow program that Skidmore had over the winter break. So basically, it was almost like a dating app. You would fill out one questionnaire from my side and then a questionnaire from the student side, and basically you'd get matched based on interest. So Charlotte and I had the pleasure of matching with Charlotte, and we first just kind of just chatted a little bit about what she was interested in, what she's up to at Skidmore, and I just gave her a little bit of background about what I do at General Idea and kind of how I got to where I am. And it sounded like a great fit. So we had Charlotte come down to the city for about a week or so, or a few weeks during the holiday break, and sat in meetings, met the office, kind of just showed her kind of what a day in a life looks like, specifically in account management and advertising world. And then she reached out shortly after that about seeing if she could spend the summer with us. And we were super excited that someone was interested in what we do. So we brought her on. And, at that point, I had moved from New York to LA, so I was no longer in the New York office, but paired her up with someone that I felt would be like a great mentor for her for the summer. And his name is DeMarco, and some of the other account management teams based in New York were able to kind of show her, just shadow, but also get, her hands into things and start working to some of the programs that we use internally, and also sit in meetings and client-facing meetings and really just understand kind of the ins and outs of agency life, advertising, and all the different roles that kind of need to work together. So yeah, it was kind of as simple as that. And I think, we don't necessarily have when I interned years ago, there was an internship program specifically At L'Oreal where I interned, and there's many students. This is kind of a little bit more of a if someone's interested, we bring them on, and it's more of a personal one-on-one opportunity versus like an intern class. And recently we had an intern with us for a few years who Charlotte had the pleasure of meeting, and we actually just offered her a full-time role now that she's been out of school for about a few months or so. So that's another opportunity that is something that could be the long-term direction as well. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing, Alex. The next question that I have, we'll start with the students again. The internships you've worked on have been pretty impressive in a variety of different areas. How were you able to come across these opportunities, and what did that application process look like? We'll go in reverse order to let Milo shine.
So I'll quickly talk about my 2024 summer internship. I knew I was staying up here in Saratoga, and I reached out to our Career Development Center, or the CDC for short, and set up a basic 30-minute meeting. What's really nice is they have these open meetings you can just go to and start talking about what jobs you want, what offers they have, how to be connected. And thankfully, they were very connected in the Saratoga community, and they connected me with someone at the Racing Museum, and I was able to talk to them, and they offered me a part-time internship there for that summer. For my Vineyard Vines internship this past summer, Vineyard Vines has a pretty decent connection with Skidmore since one of the alumni is a co-founder of Vineyard Vines, Shep Murray. And ever since my freshman year, they have held virtual info sessions at least once a semester or once a year, where an HR manager will zoom into Skidmore and sort of go over the internship class program at Vineyard Vines. So they take around 10 to 15 students a year, what that looks like and ways to get involved and show interest, apply, and hopefully get the job. So I went to two of those information sessions, one my first year and then one previously in my junior year, showed interest, worked with the CDC again on ways to make my resume look good, how to present myself, how to interview, and it turned out to be pretty successful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Milo. Next, Lane, your many internships.
Yeah. So I worked pretty closely with a few of my professors to explore like my political interests. Mostly did those internships because I was interested in local politics, especially at the time of like election season, that sort of thing. So like my freshman year and my junior year, like midterms and like the regular elections. It's kind of how I got involved with like the local politics in the area, just kind of something I was interested in. But through Skidmore, in addition to the Career Center, we also have something called Handshake. Handshake is kind of like LinkedIn, that colleges can build like partnerships with basically. And so I actually just found this internship, Old Stone Trade, on Handshake, and I applied, and then I had two interviews, and then I had the position for like all of my junior year. So I definitely took advantage of the Career Center to make sure that my resume and my cover letter were kind of like up to standard and really like fit that organization. And once I kind of got my foot in the door for digital marketing, it was a lot easier for me to get the Tang Museum internship because I had a lot of other experiences. So the Career Center and Handshake were super helpful for me to really get my foot in the door.
All right. And Charlotte, we may know, but feel free to share.
Yeah, so my process for getting into GI is basically what Alex described. We got matched. I found out about the winter job shadow program, I think through an email that the Career Development Center sent out. So keep an eye on your emails because they may really give you a great opportunity. They just emailed all the sophomores and were like, we're offering this program where you can shadow young alumni for winter break. So again, I filled out that form, got matched with Alex. We got to chat a little bit. I went into the city to the office for probably, 2 weeks or so. And then I reached out afterwards and was like, I'm really interested in like an internship this summer. So that's how I did my summer internship in 2024, being really proactive, checking my email, reaching back out. I loved my internship with GI, but I knew that I'm young and I should probably do something a little bit different, which is totally normal and a lot of people do that. And I knew I wanted to at least try journalism and writing and especially for a magazine. So I had liked this local magazine. I'm from Westchester County, like Milo. Um, this local magazine called Westchester Magazine, and I went on their website. I knew I'd always really liked their work. I liked their style of journalism, that it was sort of more chill and not as intense as a bigger publication would be. And I reached out. I had to provide a writing portfolio, so making sure that my writing was up to speed and that and then I had a phone interview, so making sure that my interview skills were on point. Those are all great things that you can go to the CDC for, the Career Development Center. And they offered me the position. So it was two different ways, but that both required a lot of proactiveness and reaching out.
Perfect. Thank you so much, guys. And to now kind of go into, what did a typical day look like for you during your internship? And you can pick, both of them, all of them. And Charlotte, we can start again with you. That works.
Yeah, at GI, I would commute into New York City, which was so much fun. You feel really professional when you get to commute. So that was awesome. A beautiful walk down to Chelsea, where the office is. And the day would start around 10, and I would meet with DeMarco, who helped run my internship program, and we sat along these windows looking into another beautiful office building. Um, and we would always start the day with a meeting called All Agency. And that's just when the entire agency would get on a Zoom and they would just see where everyone's at with the different projects. There were always so many things happening. So making sure that, where account management needed creatives to be versus if we needed to do production, stuff like that, just making sure we're all on the same page and everyone sort of knows what we're on. A lot of times I would work on the back ends of websites. I would sit on client facing calls as they came up or internal calls as needed. Yeah. And then one day I got to go to set, 2 days I went to set, which was very exciting. That's a um, very different day, but really interesting and exciting. And then for my writing internship, it was actually a remote internship. Um, so it was a lot of working from my dining room table, doing a lot of research, understanding, what the prompt I was given was. I love research, so it was really up my speed. Um, I would fact check articles. I worked on the back end of the website again in WordPress. I got to write my own articles, interview people, interview local businesses, which I really loved. So making sure that I felt confident in myself to be able to give an interview was also really, really critical. And that's what my day would look like.
Thank you, Charlotte. Lane, if you don't mind going.
I can talk about my most recent experience with the Tang Museum since that's at Skidmore. My typical day would look like I would work about 20 to 30 hours a week, and I would come in around noon. And every day, I'd meet with my boss at the very beginning at like noonish, and I would get kind of just a list of things to do for the day. And I would do a couple of different projects usually at one time. I'd usually have a video that I'd be working on over the course of the week to edit, sometimes an artist interview, something sort of like that. And then usually have photos to edit. Maybe that's headshots for our website, or maybe that's picking out photos for our website, something like that. And then I'd usually also have to like do kind of odds and ends that my boss wanted. Maybe that's like figuring out which camera would be best for an event and that kind of thing. So I usually had 2 or 3 projects going on in a typical week. And then I would also sometimes help photo shoot events, like smaller ones with the Nikon that we have. And I sometimes would work with the photographers that we have for our larger events. So that's kind of a typical day for me. I did have about a week or two of training where we kind of went through some of the different systems that we used. I have a lot of experience in Photoshop and Adobe Suite, so didn't need a ton of help with that, but I did need help with some other software, like our website and the back end. There's a little bit of JavaScript we have to use, so I got trained on that, for example. So it's kind of a little about my experience there.
Thanks, Lane. And then Milo, feel free to share on whichever internship you'd like.
I'll talk about Vineyard Vines. I would be in the office Monday through Thursday. Fridays were remote. I would drive to Stamford, Connecticut, which was very nice because I would be able to stay at home. The office was amazing. If you don't know Vineyard Vines, I know some international people are here, but their stores are very unique. They sort of feel like you're on the beach or on a boat. So imagine a four-story office building feeling like that. So you walk in there. It's super cool. The front desk lady, Crystal, would always welcome you with a smiling face, tell you how the day is going to go. Then I would go to the cafeteria and grab a cold brew. I was on the e-commerce team, and what's really interesting about the e-commerce team is it's open 24/7. That shop is never closing, so there's always something happening, always going to be an emergency or it's going to be easy day. So I would start my mornings looking at the analytics from the previous day. I started out my time in internship learning the software and helping sort of debug the website, finding issues, making sure it looked clean. But as I started learning more of the softwares, and they were amazing, the team in talking with me, showing me everything, really being supportive. I started actually reading these analytics and giving actions on how they can better use them to create web strategies, promotions, and things like that, which is really cool. Other things during my day would be once a week we had Learn the Ropes, which for interns is when we all came together and met with a VP in a various department, asked them questions, learned about their life at Vineyard Vines and general career. And also at the end of the 10-week internship, we had an internship project. So out of all 13 of us, we were split into three groups. So I was working with my group on an HR strategy to retain new talent and engage with them and make sure they get the best talent possible. And that was presented to the entire company as well as leadership. So it was a mixture of improving my professional career, but also helping out the company as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Milo. And then Alex, because you've done both of like working with interns and having done internships yourself, do you mind expanding on your experience, whether working with those students or your own experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say similar to Charlotte, when I was interning, and I think I mentioned this to Charlotte a few times, it's always good to try things and figure out things you don't like. Which just as important to figure out things you do like. And when I was interning in marketing, at L'Oreal. I interned at a dance company down in New York, called Gibney, because I was also a dance major. And I found that arts administration and more of this analytical marketing was not where I wanted to go, but I did know that I wanted to kind of stay in this creative world. So kind of continued to speak to people and get connected and figure out what I didn't like, and then eventually figured out what I did like. And that's why I was super excited when I got connected with the Career Development Center regarding the Job Shadow program, just because I guess back 10 years ago, they didn't have programs like this connecting you with alumni and really kind of figuring out jobs outside of Skidmore or your traditional, what you think of advertising, or if you think of you're an English major, so something that is more nuanced and kind of in the industry, and specifically in New York or more major cities. So I was quite keen to explain to Charlotte and kind of have her see kind of the road that I took to get from when I graduated to where I am now, and just the different types of people that I connected with, and then the different avenues that I went. I always say that if I had to guess my senior year at Skidmore if I'd be doing what I do now, I would say first, I didn't even know that these type of agencies existed. I knew that you see advertisements out in the world, you see these big fashion films, but I didn't know who or how it all went together. And that doesn't necessarily mean I didn't learn that at Skidmore. It just wasn't part of the bigger business or the bigger marketing classes. So for me, I was, just very excited to show Charlotte and explain how this type of very niche type of career unfolded for me specifically, but also for to show the different avenues that you could go with this with a liberal arts degree, etc. So yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing, Alex. And then for our last question before we transition into our Q&A section, what has been the biggest benefit of completing an internship? I mean, I think Alex just spoke on it a little bit, but starting maybe with Milo and then going around, ending with Alex, that'd be great.
I didn't know what an internship exactly was, or what I would expect from one. And when I did my part-time internship, it was around 10 to 15 hours a week, my 2024 summer. I got a little taste of what it was working with other people. And then when I had my internship abroad, I really got more of an understanding of being professional in the workplace, having a little bit of a more corporate vibe. And then my Vineyard Vines internship, I took a lot away from the professional side of things that I will now carry with me a lot. But yeah, it really prepares you for what's after college, and um, it's a good way to understand what you like and what you want to do. Because classes are great and all that, but you're not getting so much real world experience as well.
Amazing. Thanks, Milo. And then Lane.
I was gonna speak kind of about Alex was talking about, how I think it's really important, I think, to have like a wide range of internships so you can really get an idea of things that you like and things that you don't like, whether that be working for a bigger company or a smaller company, whether that's be working for a more creative company versus a more, I think, standard maybe larger company. So for me, like having a wider range of opportunities has definitely let me know that I like working in a little bit of a larger team, and that I really like working in the creative space. And that I also really love combining both my majors has been really rewarding to me. So I think really like figuring out what you like by just trying things out. I think like the more that you try, the better. I've had like a pretty wide range of experience at Skidmore, and I think that's been really beneficial to figure out what things I like and don't like. So.
Absolutely. And I think that's definitely a theme for life itself, but definitely for internships. Thanks, Lane. Charlotte, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I could repeat what Milo and Lane said, both so important. I will also say that growing your network is probably half, 50% of an internship. It's really important to just get to talk to people, get to, connect with them on LinkedIn, stuff like that. Just making sure that these, you're just meeting people and getting out there and having conversations. Everyone wants to help people that are around this college age, because everyone has a different path, so making sure that you're meeting people and talking to people. You can ask people to coffee or just hop on a Zoom and chat a little bit about what their life is like and ways that they could help you potentially in the future, but it's just nice to have those people in your corner. I will also say that learning what you do and don't like doesn't just apply to what you're doing. It can apply to like environments. So this summer I learned that I really love writing and it's really important to me, and I don't like being remote, and I like being around people and in a team. And I'm glad I had the experience to write, and I'm glad I had the experience to know that I need something different. So I think that's also really important too.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially kind of in the time of remote or hybrid work, that definitely is relevant. Charlotte, thanks for sharing that. That's perfect. And then Alex, to close us out, is there anything, I guess, from you that you would say been the biggest benefit of being a boss to interns or completing internships
Yeah,
yourself?
absolutely. I think it's quite rewarding. We all will be or have been in the position of having the wonderful opportunity to study at Skidmore and then feeling a little daunted about what the future holds. And I think at the time I didn't have a mentor at 22 or 21 when I graduated, and I think mentors are super important. I didn't have a mentor until I got into the advertising industry, and I think kind of touching on what Charlotte said about network, I think spending time and doing things that might not feel exciting, but updating your LinkedIn, reaching out to people, most of the time people will say yes and take that coffee with you because they've all been in your shoes at that point in time. And I think, I'm I still am building my network within the industry that I currently work in. And there how I've been able to grow in my career or work at different agencies have actually been through recommendations from people I've worked with in the past. So it is once I think just continue to feel uncomfortable and step outside your normal box and reach out to people and talk to people. I think it's just as important. And you never know who you'll cross paths with. And then, I always say you never know, Charlotte might be my boss in a few years. So it's always really good just to kind of keep those connections and continue to grow your network, whether that's with alumni at Skidmore or, people that you meet, at Vineyard Vines, et cetera, within your internship, because people are always willing to help.
Thank you so much, Alex. Yeah, I think you have to give people a bit more credit sometimes that, in these types of positions, people definitely want to support not only our students, but recent graduates, alumni. Those networks really run pretty strong. So thank you all for sharing your experiences. It's been really wonderful to hear the variety of different internships and experiences that you've all been able to be a part of. We are going to stop recording this session and switch over to our Q&A section of the night. So,